Welcome to the deep dive. Our whole job here is to take complex source material, really filter out the noise, and give you those sharp, memorable insights you need.
So you can just instantly grasp a topic.
Exactly. If you're looking for knowledge that's fast, thorough, and, actually usable, you are definitely in the right place.
Today, we're doing something really fascinating. We're looking at these transcripts that map out the daily lives of two professionals. Jack, who's a customer support specialist, and Emma, an English teacher.
And by digging into the details of their workdays, we can start to pull out some universal truths about modern work.
And the specific language people use to describe it.
Right. So our mission is to go beyond just listing what they do. We want to give you a kind of toolkit for decoding professional life.
Whether you're in an office, a classroom, or, something totally different.
So the big question is, what do our daily routines, our 9 to 5s, or maybe our 8.0 to 4.15 feels, what do they really look like? And how can we talk about them clearly?
Okay, let's unpack this.
The structures of their jobs immediately set two very, very different rhythms. Jack's job is, it's the perfect example of modern office life.
Oh, absolutely. Monday to Friday, sitting at a computer. The sources even call it a desk job.
That classic 9 to 5 expectation, his time is really structured by those rigid location-based hours.
And then you have Emma, the teacher, and her schedule just completely breaks that mold.
She also works full-time, but her day is run by the academic clock.
Exactly. Classes start early, 8:30 a.m., which means her whole rhythm is front-loaded. It's all about immediate student interaction.
Not that sort of constant flow of emails and calls that Jack deals with.
And that structural difference, I think, time organized by these rigid blocks versus time organized by incoming tasks, it's a huge dividing line in professional life.
It really is. And you see it right away in their personal morning rituals. The sources show this contrast so well.
Down to the first thing they drink in the morning.
Right. Emma, the teacher, she actually embraces the early start. She calls herself a morning person, wakes up at 6 a.m.
And she loves that quiet time, has some tea. Her routine is all about finding some internal peace before she has to face the classroom.
Then there's Jack. He is the classic, not a morning person.
Wakes up at 7:30 a.m., needs 2 cups of coffee.
He even says he's like a robot before the caffeine kicks in.
And what's important there, I think, is the professional side of it. Emma relies on her own, internal composure to manage her day.
While Jack is relying on a chemical intervention just to get into efficiency mode.
Yeah, to just flip the switch.
So let's follow Jack into his morning because it's a real masterclass in dealing with technological friction.
It really is. He walks in, says hi to his colleagues, the people he works with.
Right, like Sarah, who sits right next to him.
Exactly. But then the first big roadblock is his old computer.
Which takes forever to start up. A familiar pain for many, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It's the perfect metaphor, really, for outdated systems slowing down modern work. He's smart about it, though. He uses that waiting time to get ahead.
With his paper notebook, he calls it old style, which I love. He writes down his tasks for the day.
But once that slow computer finally boots up, he's immediately overwhelmed. The sources say he can have 20 or 30 new emails every single morning.
And that wave of emails, that really defines the start of his workday. It's an exercise in triage.
Handle the easy ones first to just clear the decks a bit.
All before 10 a.m. hits, and that's when the external structure kicks in.
The short team meeting. Just 15 minutes, led by his team leader, David.
And right after that, this detail is so important. He connects with his friend Tom from a different department for coffee.
These little informal social moments, these colleagues, they are like the social lubricant that keeps the whole high-pressure system from grinding to a halt.
Totally. Now, Emma's morning is less about that email triage and more about, being present.
She gets in early to prepare, but she still has to deal with meetings. And she notes that teacher meetings can be way longer than Jack's 15-minute sync-up.
Sometimes a full hour. She says they can be very long.
And her breaks are totally regulated by the clock, not by finishing a task. Her short break is at a very specific time, 10:32 a.m.
That's when she has a snack. An apple, cookies.
Or, on a good day, cake brought in by another teacher. We don't get her name, but let's call her Jane. She's the social anchor of the staff room.
It's just a fascinating contrast in what slows them down. Jack is fighting his slow computer and just the sheer volume of information.
He's trying to be efficient. Emma, on the other hand, is struggling against long meetings and, her students' energy levels.
Which one is actually more disruptive?
That's a great question. Because Jack's tech problem is frustrating, but he can work around it. Emma mentioned something huge: slow internet.
Oh, that's a killer in a classroom.
A video stops every 2 seconds, and suddenly you have 30 students getting impatient. That immediate visible failure in front of a live audience is, I would argue, way harder to recover from than a slow loading screen.
That's a really good point. But either way, the core idea holds. The morning starts with connecting with colleagues and handling those first incoming demands.
So once that morning rush is over, the next big divider in the day seems to be fuel and focus.
Yes, the lunch break and the dreaded afternoon slump, and you can see the difference in their work environments just by how they eat.
Emma, the teacher, her lunch break is precisely at 12 p.m. She's very disciplined.
Always brings lunch from home, chicken salad, things like that. She says it's cheaper and healthier.
And she eats in the teacher's room, which creates a really clear physical boundary between her workspace and her rest time.
Jack's lunch at 12:30, it's a lot more. Porous. Sometimes he goes to the cafeteria with colleagues, which keeps that social connection going.
But, and this is a key detail, he also admits to eating at his desk while watching a video on his phone.
He says it's quiet, and then he actually asks a listener, is it healthy to eat at your desk?
Which is a huge insight into the modern desk job, isn't it? For Jack, the convenience of staying put outweighs the need for a real break.
The work boundary just erodes.
And you see the cost of that later in the day, the afternoon slump. It's a shared experience for both of them.
They both explicitly say they feel tired after lunch and need a strategy to push through. For Jack, it's internal.
More coffee. He says he drinks a lot.
But Emma's strategy has to be external. She has to manage other people's slumps.
Right, she's using games, videos, and movement to fight sleepiness in her students. Jack is battling his own body clock. Emma's battling the collective slump of a whole classroom.
And this is where their core professional value really comes into focus. For Jack, it's all about efficiency, and that efficiency has to be proved with data.
The reports. He has to write them before lunch because, as he says, his boss likes to see the numbers.
These are formal documents. They detail problems he solved, the number of calls he answered. His labor is being converted into, quantifiable metrics.
Exactly, KPIs, key performance indicators. The report is the document that translates his effort into something a manager can measure.
Then in the afternoon, Jack has to handle the really high-stakes problems.
The client video calls.
Uh-huh.
And a client is an external customer, someone who buys the company's product. These are serious, complicated issues.
Yeah, they require clear speaking, screen sharing. It's a shift from quick answers to this very deep visual collaboration.
What's fascinating is thinking about the emotional side of their work. The rewards and the difficulties are so different.
Let's start with the hard parts. For Jack, the difficulties are immediate, they're stressful.
Angry customers. He has to stay perfectly calm, listen, and say that key phrase, I understand, I am here to help you.
Then you have the tech stress on top of that, the slow computer, or 3 phones ringing at the same time.
Emma's difficulties, they seem more draining than stressful in that immediate way. Long meetings are tedious, slow internet is frustrating.
But the deepest challenge for her is relational. It's when students are just not interested.
Yes, when they're looking out the window or talking to friends. She says it makes her feel a little sad.
And that's a huge difference. Jack deals with these short bursts of anonymous aggression. Emma deals with the sustained, draining feeling of failing to connect with students she sees every day.
That's a powerful psychological cost, and it's so specific to teaching.
But the rewards are powerful too. For Jack, they're often tied to the clock and to his friends.
Lunchtime, talking and laughing with his colleagues, and that amazing feeling of finishing everything at 5 p.m.
Plus, that quick hit of satisfaction you get from a happy customer, someone who is genuinely grateful.
Emma's reward is, it's much more intrinsic, it's relational. She says the work is rewarding and valuable.
Especially when a student finally gets it. That aha moment when they say, thank you, teacher, I understand now.
Or when the whole class is just having fun, laughing and learning together. Her reward is delayed. It's tied to impact, not just to completion.
But despite all these differences, there's one thing they both agree on completely.
The common ground. Both of them say that working in a team and leaning on colleagues or your boss for help and advice is absolutely essential.
That collaboration is their safety net.
So that brings us to the end of the day and to the key vocabulary we can pull from all this.
Right. What did we learn about the engine room of modern work?
Let's start with the journey home, the commute. It serves a really crucial purpose.
It sets the boundary. Emma walks for 15 minutes, and she frames it as her exercise for the day. It's a hard physical break between work and home.
Jack's commute is longer, a 30-minute bus ride, and he uses that time passively. Music, an audiobook, or just thinking about the day.
So his commute is more of a mental buffer. It lets the stress of the day kind of dissipate before he gets home.
One is active, one is passive, but both are essential for mental health.
Okay, so now let's use those 6 essential professional terms we found as lenses to analyze all this.
Right. First, colleagues. We've talked about them a lot. They're not just people you share a space with.
They are your essential internal network, your first line of defense against an unsolvable problem or just emotional burnout.
Second, the commute. As we just saw, that's the mechanism that defines your work-life boundary. The length and the mode of it dictate how you prepare for work and how you decompress after.
Third, the schedule. This is the absolute framework of the job.
For Jack, the schedule is all about managing blocks of time for efficiency, for metrics. The 10 a.m. meeting.
For Emma, the schedule is that rigid class calendar that dictates her energy and focus for the entire week. The schedule is what turns time into labor.
Fourth, the report. We talked about this. It's the conversion tool.
It takes the abstract process of work-solving problems, answering calls, and it converts it into data that management can measure. It's the proof of your work.
Fifth, the deadline. This is the external pressure cooker. It's that final time commitment that dictates priority and stress.
Working hard to meet the deadline, it forces focus, but often at the cost of stress.
And finally, full time. The hours are similar, 35 to 40 hours a week for both of them. But the reality of what full-time feels like is just vastly different.
Jack's is location rigid, it's efficiency driven. Emma's is emotionally immersive, it relies on relational energy.
Just shows that full-time is a number that can hide very, very different professional demands.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. We've looked at the big structural differences between a desk job and a more relational job.
We analyzed the different kinds of stress and reward, and we've really dissected the core vocabulary that professional life is built on.
The big takeaway for me is that every modern job is this active negotiation. It's between your time, other people's expectations, and your relationships.
And the real difference is in your currency. Is it quantifiable output, like Jack's reports, or is it human impact, like one of Emma's students finally understanding something?
And as we close, let's circle back to that crucial boundary we saw at the end of their days. Jack, the customer support specialist, he says it so clearly.
On Friday, I close my computer and I forget about work until Monday morning.
That desk job structure, as rigid as it is, it provides this very clean, defined break. But Emma, the teacher, she admits she sometimes needs to prepare lessons for 2 or 3 hours on Sunday.
Which leaves you with a really important question to consider for your own schedule.
When your professional life is rewarding in that deep relational way, does it become significantly harder to draw a healthy boundary between your work life and your free time? Think about the psychological cost of that porous boundary.